Vicious, but brilliant! I don't believe it! I swear I do not believe it! And they are back on terms!
Hello and welcome to New York Talk. This is the Rotherham United podcast. Not a fun one today, but you know, we have to lose sometimes, don't we? So it's Accrington Stanley away defeat we're going to talk about, and then we're going to talk about a scheduled game. You know, now we COVID, how these things go, but we're meant to play Lincoln in a couple of days' time, so we're going to preview that as well. I don't expect any footballers to turn up randomly to this episode, but who knows? You know what I mean? You know, so let's see how we get on. As everybody hopefully here already, Danny's with us. No, thanks for joining us, Danny.
Hello, everybody.
Ben's not with us, so let's grief him. Ben's just decided to put his friends in front of us, which is obviously very, very, very disappointing. But what that means is we do have, for Mick, from everyone's favourite place, a car park in Wales.
Hey.
Hello.
How's the car parks in Wales at this time of night, Mick?
Yeah, lovely. Very dark. I like to keep engine running to make sure windows don't steam up, otherwise I will be attracting police. But on the upside, I can get straight into court after this and get myself some beer, so happy days, mate.
It's lovely this time of night on a holiday, bank holiday.
It appears to be. I'm just looking at it now, and I've seen people walking in and out. Lights are on. We'll get a try when we finish, so don't be long.
I'm gonna say, it would be frustrating if it shut at 9 and we stopped recording just at 9, so you wouldn't have time to go get yourself some beer.
So let's smarten your act up then. Let's get on with
it. First of all, because we just did the Christmas last week, Danny, how was your Christmas?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, as we said with the episode that was graced by the Bar Lasses, mine's quite a nice steady Christmas. Just went over to my granddad's, had a nice Christmas dinner on Christmas Day, and then after the Accrington game, I went round there again with more or less the whole family and had Bubble and Squeak. And anyone who hasn't tried my nan's Bubble and Squeak, it's perfection, absolute perfection. So that was a nice positive after the Accrington game.
Yeah, we all needed a positive after Accrington game, didn't we?
Yeah.
And for a listen, go on,
I got that from my dad as well. So that went down well after the Accrington game as well, let me tell you.
It looks like whiskey's gone down quite well already, Danny, yeah.
Oh, yes. Just put some in my tea before we talk about Accrington, because I'll need it.
Mick, how was your Christmas for our listeners and viewers?
Yeah, all right, mate. No problem. Nothing to report, really. Just Christmas, weren't it? Usual socks and pants.
Yeah. And what else? What was your big present from me?
From you?
Yeah, what did I get you for Christmas?
Can't remember. I can't remember.
I got you a blow Zimmer frame.
Yes, you did. Indeed, you did. Yes. Yeah.
That's my favourite present we got anybody for this Christmas.
That's why I've forgotten about it already.
I will. So I hope everybody's had a good Christmas and obviously New Year coming up. Let's get into it.
Hang on. No, I'm kidding.
Please don't big whiskey. Yeah. The run had to end. So let's start before we get into the nooks and crannies of the game, Danny. Let's just like a lot of people did after the game yesterday. Let's applaud the unbeaten run because it's been amazing, and that's where we should start by recognising the run we've been on.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, you can tell we've been on an exceptional run of form and unbeaten games when our neighbours from S6 have already piped up going, oh, we're on a 12-game unbeaten run. Oh, it's incredible. Just to point out, they have only won 5 of those 12. The rest have been draws. Anyway, we'll move on from that. But yeah, 21 games unbeaten. It's a colossal effort for a club at any sort of level. I mean, I've said this time and again to a few people, if a Man City or a Liverpool was on that sort of run, they would get aired on Sky all the time about it. But because it's happened in League One, there's been no mention of it really, other than on a couple Quest things and on, I think Paddy Power mentioned it as well on Bet365. So it has got a bit of recognition both for us and the games and the clubs that we've overcome during it. But at the same time, like we've said, it did have to end at some point. It's just quite unfortunate that it didn't end with a battling 1-0 against one of the big teams in the division. It sort of ended a bit with a whimper. We didn't really have any sort of pride in the game. I mean, fair play to Accrington Stanley. They've overturned us and fair play to them, and their goal was incredible. But at the same time, our performance didn't really merit a one that was going for 22 games. It just seemed a bit lackluster, and I think that's why a lot of people were frustrated at it at the end of the game.
Yeah, no, definitely. Mick, I've dragged up it's a stat that I thought of in my own head, and it's an interesting one that I hope doesn't get repeated. So every time that our podcast has spoken to a Rotherham United player, we've gone on to lose the next league game. Now, that's only happened twice. When we spoke to Richard Wood, we then lost to Fleetwood, and we've now spoke to Victor and Dan Barlasser, and now we've lost to Accrington. So if Sam Todd is watching it, honestly, it's not our fault. No, we haven't done it. It's not our fault, Mick. Mick, the run, amazing, like Danny just said.
Yeah, fantastic, absolutely fantastic, mate. And it's been an absolute pleasure. As many people have said, it's a pleasure to be a Miller at the moment. It really is. We've talked about it, haven't we, on this podcast? And like we said, it had to come to an end sooner or later. And I guess, like a number of people have said on social media, I suppose what better place for it to come to an end than Accrington Stanley. The first time I play them after the tragic circumstances of last time. So I suppose there's a bit of symmetry there, isn't there, really? If anybody was going to beat us, it deserves to be them, just for the way they are. So yeah, but we move on now, don't we? We move on. We don't interview any more players till the end of the season, and we go for champions. That seems to be how it's going to be.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, frustrating. We've got a quick comment from Josh Smith, who was with us. Thank you for joining us, Josh. He says, poor result yesterday. Could have been 3 or 4 up at half time. Poor defending from Chio for their goal. As you can hear Victor shout away in the highlights, all about how we react. Yeah, let's talk about the goal. First of all, there's plenty more to cover from the game itself and from the day itself. But from the goal, first of all, Danny, at the time, because obviously we were stood behind the goal, it was difficult to see it. In my head, I initially blamed Victor. Because when the ball bounces like that, you're thinking, God, keeper's got to come out. But when I watched it back, it bounced near a penalty spot. So for me, there's no fault on Victor. It's Chio, unfortunately. Chio's got to come out and get that ball, and he waits for it. And you can't be reactive like that in your own penalty box. You've got to be positive, haven't you?
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, as a good defender, you don't let the ball bounce, an opposition ball bounce in the penalty area. Before it hits floor, it's either sent back from where it came from and cleared, or it's sent outwards, out of the box. But again, it can be put down to Chio not being a natural defensive player. He is an attacking player. He played in a role where he has to be a bit defensive. You could say because Harding was in that position, Harding's more of a wide player as well. We were missing Reg through injury, which I think you could probably tell with our defence. Defence wasn't as solid as normal without Reg. But yeah, I think to put the blame on Chio solely is doing him a bit of a disservice. But at the same time, you can't let the ball bounce in the penalty box. Either the keeper's coming for it, but if the keeper shouts away, like you say on the highlights, someone has to get the nut on it and get it away. Yeah. But then, to Accrington's credit, the finish were amazing.
Finish is brilliant.
You can't knock it. I mean, the defensive was poor, but the goal from Accrington, wow, wow, good goal. But again, it's gone down to that thing of we get undone when we're not playing well by a worldie and then lose the game. Look at Fleetwood. We didn't play particularly well at Fleetwood, got undone by a worldie, and then we ended up losing. The only games we haven't really lost to a worldie is Wigan and Sheffield Wednesday. But yeah, like Josh said, it's all about how we react now, which funnily enough is also against Lincoln. We had a good reaction after the Fleetwood game, and now we've got Lincoln again. So
talk about symmetry.
I think that's a little bit more than coincidence, that, you know.
I talk all the time about football throwing up these random things. The fact that our run started at Lincoln and our first game after our next defeat is Lincoln just sums football up. That's just quality. Mick, your views on the goal? It seemed to happen in slow motion, really, didn't it, at time, I felt?
Yeah, it did, and you know, looking back at it, you're right that Chio should have done better, I guess. Even for his header, he seemed to jump a little bit too early, and therefore couldn't get enough on the header. But look, after the way Chio's playing, we cannot be heaping blame on the lad. You know, he knows he's done wrong. He knows he didn't deal with it well. And the reaction of the players afterwards, going up to him and you know, getting him sort of encouraging him and everything else, just sums up again. It sums up what we've got in this squad. So like you said, what a finish! What a finish! You know, if you're going to lose a 21 game unbeaten run, it might as well be to an overhead kick, hasn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
just stunning finish. And let's be fair, overall, Accrington deserved that victory yesterday. We were poor, we were lacklustre, we were tired, we looked tired. We didn't look at the races at all, probably for the whole of the game, to be fair. And we haven't done for 4 or 5 games, so I think it's probably the right time for this to happen, and hopefully it'll just sort of cement that determination that they've clearly got as a team and as a squad to now kick on.
Yeah, let's hope so. Let's hope so indeed. But Danny, the game could have been maybe not over by half time, but we, like again Josh says, we could have been a couple up. Freddie's missed a really good chance. There's a couple other good chances. I know it was below what we probably expect, but certainly the first half wasn't a bad performance. We were the better team in the first half.
Yeah, I think we probably just snuck it as a better team in the first half. But again, football is a game of, it don't matter how you play, it's how you take your chances. We didn't take ours and we fluffed it, and Accrington took their best chance of the game, arguably, and you know, they've won the game. One thing I did pick up on was that a lot of people have been saying that Smith is now in the rut of winning player of the month, or at least being in the running for it, and that's why his form's out the window. Now, this is a question that I want people in the comments and both you two to answer. Do you think Smith needs to be put on the bench for the next game, and then that might encourage him to try and kick on a little bit?
For me, no. All Smith's doing, Smith is not really changed the way he's playing for me. He's playing exactly the same. He's still doing the dog work. Maybe he's lost a little bit of confidence, but that don't mean he's playing badly. Accrington are one of the biggest teams in this division, and they use it very cleverly. I have a lot of respect for what they do, other than to throw themselves around. And he won his fair share, didn't he? Let's be fair. But Smithy wasn't bullied. I mean, anybody that thought that Smith would go on to get 25 goals this season, I think we were all kidding ourselves a little bit, weren't we? The run was going to come to an end. If he was a natural goal scorer, he wouldn't be at Rotherham United. So, for me, he's doing his job. Mick, what do you think?
There's an argument to say that we give him a rest. There is an argument for that. You know, if it was, for example, Dan Barlasser having a similar sort of run, maybe he might get swapped out and given a rest. I don't know. So there is an argument. To say that he's losing his touch and he's not the player that he was or whatever, I think is a ridiculous statement. But nobody's actually said that. But you know what I mean. I just think he is in a bit of a strikers, particularly strikers, go through periods of in form and out of form in terms of goal scoring, and that's where Smithy is at the moment. He's crucial to the way that we play, and as you said, he's still doing his job. He's still doing the job, his main job, and his main job is not really to score the goals. You know, I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's not. It's to put that effort in, put that graft in, and create the chances up there. I mean, he's still got an assist in the last game at Cambridge. You know, so So no, I'm not a fan of that at the moment, unless there's an issue in terms of fatigue. In that case, then yeah, maybe he has a rest. But other than that, no, I'm not worried about his form at all.
Glad I agree with you. Very good.
Brill. The only thing you can question then is Freddie, and I'm reluctant to question him, Danny, because he works hard. He is working hard, and I think the goals will come. He's unlucky in the first half because Accrington were just throwing themselves at shots. They defended gallantly, is the word. So he didn't score again. How much of a problem is that?
I think with our front line, Accrington are a really tall team, aren't they? I mean, one of their centre halves looks like he should be playing basketball, demand football.
Do you see something wrong?
Exactly. And I think that may play into Smith's performance, especially against Accrington, because if he's got a bigger centre half against him, which is a very rare thing for Michael Smith, he tends just to cancel each other out. If they both play well, it's just it makes Smith look poor because he's not been able to be as fluid as he normally is. Same with Freddie. Freddie likes to lurk on the 6-yard box and run through defenders. But if he's a lot bigger than you, it's going to be quite hard for him to do. But with Freddie, it seems he goes on a run after coming on as a substitute for quite a lot. He goes on a brilliant scoring run. And then gets starting, and then he sort of drops off a bit. So I'm wondering if it's time to start Grigg, because Grigg does really well when he comes on as a starting player. Give him a run in the team next to Smith, and then bring Freddie on as the sub. Let him build up that desire to break into the first team again, and then we'll probably get more goals from Freddie. It's not him being a poor player, because when he's a brilliant player, he's unplayable, especially if you're in the back line. But it goes down to a thing of, if he's in the team all the time, sometimes you do need that little spell out of the starting 11 to get your desire back in you. Get the drive to go out and try and score. And we might do that against Lincoln, because we're playing Lincoln and then Bolton in the space of a week. So that's a possibility. But Freddie has got a lot of goals this season as well, so that'll be what Paul Warne's playing on his mind, But for me personally, I'd take Freddie out, put Grigg in, add that dynamic to it, and then because we didn't have that against Lincoln, we didn't start Grigg and Smith against Lincoln, did we?
No,
or did we?
Grigg came on late, didn't he?
Yeah, so maybe
his first game or second game? Second game after Donny game, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's his first time coming on as a sub in the league, I think. So switch it up. Let them play against Grigg, because they won't know how to deal with Grigg because he came on late in the game. So if we start him, it might upset Lincoln.
Yeah. I think I said, and to be fair, when Grigg came on yesterday, Mick, I know Freddie had that chance in the first half, but Grigg was a constant threat. And again, it was Accrington throwing themselves at his feet that stopped him from getting a very good shot on target from Grigg, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And let's be fair, both Freddie and Smithy yesterday were hiding to nothing, really, weren't they, with the size of their defence. And with the referee, and this is not an excuse. I'm not making excuses for the fact we lost and deserved to lose. But for the referee assisting them every single possible way he possibly could. And then playing it, I thought he was one of the worst referees they've had this season, quite frankly.
And that's a big shout.
He just gave absolutely. That is a big shout, but he gave everything. He gave absolutely every time. There were a couple of times when Accrington player fell over with nobody near him, absolutely nobody even close to him, and he gave the free kick. And they played on that, which I don't agree with. I don't like. But neither Freddie nor Smithy. Neither Freddie nor Smithy got any protection whatsoever, and they were bullied within an inch of their lives. And like you said, they played to the strength of Accrington, and I accept that. And if they're going to be strong and physical at the back there, which they were, not a problem with that. But the referees need to deal with that properly, and not the way that he did yesterday. And like I said, I don't agree with Accrington the way that they dealt with the referee, because they realised what they were doing, and so they just threw themselves about. Not a fan of that either. It's cheating, but that's how it is, isn't it?
It was mainly McConville, or whatever his name is. He was an absolute pig for throwing himself around.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well.
Yeah, really frustrating.
But hey, that is football, isn't it? That's how it is nowadays, and we've got to deal with that. So you can't complain too much about it.
Yeah,
although I will.
Although you will. Yeah, exactly. For me, Danny, where the game was won and lost was the midfield, and we lost the midfield battle because of the physicality, because of the strength, and I don't want to say work rate because Ollie Rathbone did himself at the guy. He did try, but that's a little bit of a concern that all they did was stop the midfield playing the ball. Now, if you're going to stop, that's easy enough for teams of this team to do. You pack midfield three, make them busy. Don't let Barlaser get on ball. Don't let Wiles push through. You've stopped us. Now, all right, we're going to break that down sometimes, but we need to. I'm saying this after a 21-game unbeaten run. It concerns me that has been an issue that other teams have stopped. Wickham stopped us. Bromley did for 40 minutes. Teams have managed to stop us at times, and that's something that, as a team, they need to figure out a way around that, because teams will learn and do it more, won't they?
Yeah, I think as well, when we played Oxford, they sussed out that our main distribution is in the midfield. And if you stop midfield, then you virtually stop us dead, because then we revert back to long ball. I don't think Smith is playing long ball this season. He's playing a different sort of football than being the lone centre half, because he's got Freddie in support, so he knows not to be connected to the long ball way of playing. We have good distribution in midfield, but when teams start to work it out, that's when you need to switch it up a bit. Either bring your man in midfield and bring somebody out, and just switch up a little bit. Like you say, Ollie Rathbone was running himself ragged again, and at times he seemed to be the only person wanting to drive the team forward, because they stopped the midfield so much that it just either went sideways or backwards.
Yeah.
I noticed that Wiles, one of the best midfielders in the league, he was stopped so much that he probably played more back passes than he did forward passes, which is something that you don't want from a player like Wiles. Same with Barlaser. They stopped Barlaser. I'm sorry, Alison. Barlaser. They stopped him as well. They stopped him being able to distribute the ball out wide or forwards to the strikers, and it just completely stopped his way of playing, which we don't want to see. So I think, and I noticed that when Warney brought Lindsay on, we had a bit more success in midfield, because it added a different element to it.
It's a bit more physical in Lindsay. He's just stronger, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think if you play the same midfield three for a lot of games, teams do sort of look at each game and go, well, we can work that out. They still play this way. So I don't want to call myself a football manager or anything. I'm far from it. But for me, potentially switch it up, bring Lindsay in, because then teams will just go, it's not the same system. We'll have to redo it, rework it out, which could play into our benefit.
Yeah. I thought yesterday, we mentioned this on the way back, Mick, that maybe it was a game with hindsight, with Captain Hindsight glasses on. It was maybe a game for Adolphin, because he is big and strong. Again, this is all hindsight, Mick, but do you think with those goggles on, do you think he would have made a difference?
Yeah, I think he probably would. But none of us has got hindsight, have we? Coming away with a 3-0 victory. So yeah, it's possible, and he may look to change that up change that midfield around a little bit for the Lincoln and/or Bolton games. I think we've talked about it a couple of times now. Ben Wiles seems to be a little bit out of it. He's not had much impact in the last 3 or 4 games as Ben, and maybe there's some fatigue creeping in there as well, because his game's a real high energy game, isn't it? And he's just not there at the moment. He's not getting the ball enough, and when he does get the ball, he's not got enough options open to him. So he's ended up either losing the ball or running down blind alleys. So there's possibly an argument there for him to have a bit of a rest. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. It's in the hands of Warney, and like Danny's just said, neither us nor anybody else on social media, the football managers, we haven't all we do is talk as fans. You know, we all speculate, and in reality, none of us have got the first clue how to do that job. So it's going to be very, very difficult. But I suspect we might see some changes on Wednesday night, potentially anyway.
Yeah, we'll come on to that. Defensive unit though, Danny. I think the back, if you include Victor in the back four, other than the goal, which again he probably don't blame the back four for that. I'd say game. As we said earlier, might not get a more tougher physical battle this season than against Accrington. And for the most part, other than that one mistake, we stood up so well. Woody had a really good game. His clearance, although it led to the goal, was a brilliant headed clearance. And that's what we did all game. It was a good defensive performance. I know we lost, but it was still a good defensive performance.
Yeah, I think it was possibly below our normal levels with Reg out injured, but to bring in a back three that isn't like our usual back three, they have done very well. Of course, other than the goal and such. And I think because we've got leaders in both Woody and Icky, I noticed that towards the end of the game, they were in a further forward position than some of the midfielders. And I think that's just that drive of, excuse me, of just wanting to push us forward as much as they can. And when Woody was walking off at the end of the game, he had a face like thunder. He was annoyed, and as the captain, you will be, But yeah, like I say, I think other than the goal and forgetting route one defending, which is if it's in the box, get it out. Other than that, they did have a good performance. If Reggie's okay enough, I think he will come back in on Wednesday. But we may save him for Bolton if it's still on New Year's Day. So we might see the same back three against Lincoln, which is no issue because they are they are all good defenders in their own right.
Yeah, they are. Absolutely are. Ray Smedley is with us. Hi, Ray. Happy New Year to all. But I've got to say, I'm not picking him on him as he's one of our own, but Ben Wiles has been poor last couple of games, like Mick mentioned. You notice when he gives the ball away, his head goes down. Yeah, it's one of them players, I think, when he's in form, when he's not in form, that's how he plays. But that'll come experience. He's still, that's one part of his game he's he's clearly learning on and needs to improve, and he doesn't need us telling him that, does he? But we couldn't have played Accrington, as it turns out, Mick, and this is not hindsight, we couldn't have played Accrington at a worse time, really. The 4 wins out of the last 5. That was their celebration game for the 20 years since John Coleman and I think Jimmy Bell have been at the club. It just sort of worked against it. And I'm talking about their players launched themselves. It was clearly a big game for them, not just playing top of the league. It's Boxing Day, which is a big game, and it's their anniversary game. It was all a little bit of the perfect storm, really, wasn't it?
You took the words right out of my mouth there. Yeah, it was a perfect storm. And what an achievement for John Coleman and Jimmy Bell as well. What an absolute fantastic achievement. 20 years at one club.
Well, no, 20 years since they first arrived. He did go to Rochdale briefly.
Yeah,
so it's 20 years over 2 terms then, which is still massive.
Still amazing, yeah.
Yeah. It's just enormous. It's enormous and it's fantastic. And I'm really pleased for Accrington. I'm disappointed, desperately disappointed that we lost, obviously, and we lost that unbeaten run as well. But fair play to them. They deserve what they got. They deserve what they got on Sunday, without a doubt.
Yeah, he actually went to Rochdale, then Southport, and Sligo Rovers, which I didn't know about in 2014. I was surprised at that. But to put some more meat on the bones, he took over Accrington when they were in the Northern Premier First Division. So what's that? 4, 5, 6, 7, about the 8th tier of English football. He took over Accrington, and he was coming back into the Football League and everything else. So, yeah, well done, Accrington. And the setup they've got, Danny. We got down there early. We were in tent for about 12:30. I know you got down there early as well. It's a fantastic setup and just a great club. Yeah,
it is. I sort of wish other football clubs were a bit like that, but then you'll get the idiots at some clubs that will spoil a mixed fan zone. But with Accrington, it was great. They had live music on, good pre-match music as well. Because that video of the away fans singing "Sweet Caroline," that is fierce. That's incredible. But because it's in Accrington and they are surrounded by some bigger clubs, like they've got Blackburn, Wigan, and Preston quite close by. I think that's why they're able to, get away with it, because they want as many people to come as possible, but also we let you enjoy the experience. Like I noticed that some Burnley fans went because they went and just went to enjoy the football. But with a club of Accrington's size, fan base wise, it makes it a rocking atmosphere when the away side have nearly half the ground, but are still in tune with the Accrington fans in terms of the pre-match stuff. It were a great day. Regardless of the result, it was a really good away day, and I think the EFL should make regional away days, regional games on Boxing Day more of a thing. I know they've done it because of COVID this year, and a lot more teams are playing like north v north, south v south sort of thing. But it should be a thing that we see more, because it adds more atmosphere to a game and just a brilliant time, really. Good Boxing Day.
Yeah. The tent thing were amazing. I loved it.
It was great.
Brilliant, Mick. And to be fair, when I went to MK Dons this year, I had a pint in the ground. It was one of the worst pints I've ever had. The beer at Accrington, Mick, were lovely, wasn't it?
Oh, mate, yeah, I had a pint of that bit of it they had on. That it's some sort of celebratory brew for Coleman and the like. Oh, mate, it was gorgeous. Just a shame I was driving, because I had a few of them. I would have been. I'd spent most of the game in the toilet. I mean, a wee, like, but nevertheless, it was glorious. Lovely beer.
Pies aren't half bad as well. I had a steak and pepper pie, and it were incredible. Better than the burnt bottom puckers that we get in the north stands. It were amazing, this pie. So full pie and pint review, Accrington, you've done very well.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, hats off.
It was like a good night out, weren't it? I mean, I got pie, chips, and peas, and a glorious pint and some live music. What more do you want? I mean, 3 points would have been nice, right? But other than that,
and we got there early. Ronnie Moore was still waiting outside to get in. I mean, we didn't say hello to him because we're all a bit shy, but we saw Ronnie Moore as we went in, which were nice. So a good day. A good day, other than result.
Ronnie would have probably told us to do one, because we didn't make him didn't give him striker title in our greatest 11. So I don't know whether he's got face on a little bit worse for that.
I'm sure he hasn't. You never know. If you're listening, Ronnie,
I'm sure he
are sorry. Please come and talk to us.
And you were manager.
Oh, your best manager. Yeah, you won the best manager title. So, I'm still frustrated. I'm still down about the loss, but it's okay. I said to I see some people on Twitter. So I said on the way back to our car yesterday, it's okay to lose games of football. It's going to happen. We are going to lose games of football. The test is, as we've all mentioned, what happens now. So now in going into the Lincoln game, are we going to fold? Are we going to try to do the same thing again and fold again? Or are we going to go again and get that momentum building? I think we're going to get that momentum building again. So let's move on. Anything else you want to pick from the Accrington game before we move on to some Lincoln chat?
I think
I've got just one thing from me.
Go on, Mick.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, sorry, Danny.
Right.
I've got a delay on my my line from Co-op, obviously. That Co-op is sapping my Wi-Fi. Just one thing from me. I did notice at the end of the game, and for me, this absolutely sums up Rotherham United Football Club for me. Tony Stewart was stood at the tunnel end and shook every single player's hand as they left the pitch. And I just thought that was absolutely fantastic. For me, that is what you call that's. If you look up leadership, the definition of leadership in dictionary, that's what it should show. Just that is absolutely top draw.
Yeah, I think so. The one thing I was going to say is I think some fans' criticism of Chio in that game was a little like we've said he was probably at fault for the goal, but to say he's been off pace and he doesn't really do anything.
Saying that.
Yeah, they were stood around me saying he's not a good winger. He's only got pace and that's it. I mean, all you need to do is Yeah, other than giving
Yeah.
being at fault for the goal, sort of, he had a good game. He was still running the channels, and he is the best winger. And Rotherham United glasses on, he is the best winger in this league. And all you need to do is look at the stats that people put up. You know, he's running in the channels, balls into the box, and being a winger isn't all about creating a chance and getting assists. You know, if I've said this in podcasts before, Chio has the ability to pull one or two players away to try and deal with him, but he's got the pace to beat him, which he showed in the game, and he does create chances. And to call him, well, I won't repeat the word because we're live, but to call him really poor is a bit unjust.
Yeah.
And I think it might be frustration at the game that's boiled over, but at the end of the day, he'll always be a better winger than you are. So I think you need to keep your opinions to yourself.
I thought most of the good play we had came down the right hand side.
Yeah, I think when Miller came on,
tried to force us down the left, didn't he? Yeah,
yeah, and then when Miller came, and he brought Miller on, and then we went down the left hand side. But I have noticed that the wingers are a little bit scared of the heavy challenge, but that's because they're running at pace. And then if they get clattered by the defender, you are going to be a bit scared of being clattered, aren't you? Especially with Mikel, because it's his first spell out from being injured by trying to beat a player, you know. And that's why I brought Ferguson into it. But you know, just to call him the word that the individuals used is very, how do I describe it? Uncouth, shall we say? You know, because childish. That's the good word, childish, mate. Yeah, to say that is a bit childish, and you know, and Chio's been one of our star players this season, one of the number star players, and he's so in touch with our fan base. You know,
did you see him? I don't know if you were there, but when they came out from the tunnel for the start of the game, did you see a smile on Chio's face when he saw fans?
Yeah. Have you seen his team photo? Him in the team photo. No. He's got biggest smile I've ever seen. I thought it was one of the white seats, but he's got this massive smile on his face. It's ace.
Yeah.
I can't believe. I'm glad I didn't hear it. I just cannot believe that. I can't believe that anybody at all, with any sense whatsoever, would criticise Chio. I just can't believe it. And if that is you, and you've got the view that he doesn't bring a great deal to the team, then you really do need to give your head a wobble, or watch a bit more football and learn how it's played. Because that is just the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard. Absolutely stupid, in my view.
We'll set him off now, Danny.
Sorry.
I
know, but come on.
To go home and stop watching if you have that opinion.
Come on now.
Yeah, I'm going to put it down to frustration.
It's right.
Yeah. You've got to put it down to frustration. Yeah. And it sounds like we're being really defensive on somebody we've never met's behalf, but that's because this is what we believe. We're not just saying it because we're trying to get good favour with club or whatever. I genuinely believe Chio had a decent game on Saturday. I will not agree with anybody that says he didn't. That's football, isn't it?
Chio, come on the podcast and sign a new contract, please. We've bigged you up. Please come on the podcast.
Please come on the podcast, but then don't lose the game after. We're going to get a reputation.
Sign your contract, come on the podcast, but make sure the game's already been called off because of whatever reason. Yeah,
exactly. A couple of bits to talk about in general. Before we get to Lincoln game, it's the first time we've had to chat about the Barlaster episode. Now, if you haven't watched that episode already, you need to go watch it because it's an hour and 40 minutes of your life that will make you feel better. It was madness, Danny. The whole thing, his mum were brilliant and an him popping up. This was all crazy and brilliant. Thanks to them both, really. Yeah,
thanks to them both. They were both fantastic. I mean, a lot of people on my away day bus said that episode were fantastic. To have his mum on and then surprise Barlaster's here as well. It were incredible. And my mum's watched it back and she says as soon as we all sort of click on that Dan's going to come in, we all have sparkles in our eyes, like, oh my God, he's here. We were all a bit fan struck, especially Ben because he didn't talk. But yeah, that were a great episode. And the Victor episode as well. That were fantastic because I've watched a bit of that back and Victor's a really good chat, To say he's not really as media aware as some players, shall we say. He were brilliant to talk to. Granted, he swore and we had to cut it out, but at the same time, it were a brilliant talk to him. And I think if Victor does sign a new contract and we want him here, I think he's definitely a candidate for a post or a pre-season chat.
Yeah,
that could be worked out. The same way with Dan, he'd be a good post or pre-season chat as well. But thanks to everybody who were involved in making that happen. Thanks to the RUFC who sent the initial DM to Alison. So thank you, and thanks to Alison for getting Dan in as well. Fantastic stuff.
Absolutely. And the Victor one, mate, that I mentioned. My favourite bit of the Victor episode is him calling Ben Hart for not speaking. That's the best bit.
Yeah, I mean, the best bit for me is when he's talking about not getting his injuries wet in shower. I mean, that for me just shows how mad goalkeepers are. They are absolutely bonkers, and he just lived up to that hype, didn't he? Yeah. What a lad! What an absolute gem he is! And I tell you what, I'd love to talk to him kind of off air because I bet he's got a hell of a lot of stories that he could tell. Yeah. I love him to bits, and we all love him. We loved him before we even spoke to him, and the fans do as well. And he's just made it even better, hasn't he?
Yeah,
he's great, top lad.
In that podcast as well, we talked about how Victor doesn't have his own chant, right?
Yeah, he got a song, didn't he?
Yeah, you got to know the start of the song.
Were it you?
Yeah.
Yes, excellent.
In my drunken wisdom, I've come up with it. I won't do a rendition because I'm a bit shy about singing. But yeah, I came up with it. It's basically the same Gareth Southgate song, but with Southgate replayed with Johansson. And everyone just turned around to me and went, "What good that?" So I really hope it sticks. I hope it sticks, and I'm going to try and sing it against Bolton, against Lincoln. Because he's within audio range of me then. So I hope he hears it.
Well, if you've got it on vlog, when that's out, probably tomorrow, I assume we'll be able to
put it on there, tomorrow morning, yeah.
Exactly.
I hope I have got it. I ain't checked my footies through yet, but I hope I've got it. If not, then first rendition in the Lincoln vlog.
Absolutely. And thanks to the club and Sam Todd for trusting us to speak to your player. I know when Victor comes on, if Victor says something, he could get himself in trouble. Obviously with the FA and things such as that. So thanks for the trust in us, and hopefully listeners and viewers will get some more players on in future, or Victor and Dan back on, or Woody maybe in future. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hope everyone's enjoyed it. Before we get to the Lincoln game, let's address the elephant in the room in terms of the Bolton game. Now, the Bolton have had another game postponed. Their game on Wednesday, I can't remember what it's against now. But anyway, it's been postponed. And there's obviously the worry that because they've had two games postponed because of COVID, that they could then get the New Year's Day postponed as well. Now, by my calculations, which are not very good, obviously, it should be okay. So they announced on the 21st of December that their Boxing Day game was off. So at worst, they confirmed all their case on the 21st of December. And nowadays, it's only a 7-day isolation period, assuming you test negative, which would take us to the 28th, which would take us to tomorrow, which would give, 3 or 4 days before the 1st. Even if it's 2 more days, let's call it the 30th. For me, that should still be played on the 1st. So hopefully, fingers crossed, touch wood, the New Year's game should be on. Obviously, we'll hear something in the next few days.
Yeah, you would have thought if the majority... Sorry, carry on, Matt.
I was going to ask you, from what you've heard, what you know about these things, does that sound about right?
Yeah, I think if the majority of their infections, shall we say, came from round about the 21st of December, round about that time, and it's only a week's isolation now, they should probably have 14, including a goalkeeper, at minimum, ready for New Year's Day. It's just depending on how many injuries they've got in the camp, which I think, personally, I think it's a very loose criteria to say, COVID cases and injuries. It's like, well, if they stubbed the toe or if they strained their hamstring, what do you define as an injury? That could be something that clubs play with. But if it's just COVID that they've had in their camp, then they should technically be all right for New Year's Day. And if not, we don't have to wait long until the next game, which is only on 4th of January, so it's not too bad.
No, absolutely. Might be a good time to play them if they've still got some COVID. So anyway, that's well. By the time we do it,
don't say that. We didn't last time. We said that we drew with Oxford.
Oh yeah. Forget what I just said. Forget that.
Cut it out quick. In the published one, cut it out. Nobody heard that, right?
No, you didn't. So let's move on. Lincoln City come to town. It's going to be our 99th meeting of Lincoln. We've beaten them 50 times out of the 98 so far. We've not beaten a team more than Lincoln in our history. So that's, again, good records. Their recent record is horrendous, though, Mick. They now find themselves only a few points outside the relegation zone, which I'm truly shocked. But when we played them in September, I think they were around mid-table. But there was an assumption, certainly from me, and I think from most football fans in this league, that they would be fine. They're now 2 points off relegation, which seems crazy, really.
Yeah, it does a little bit because they were a decent side when we played them, weren't they? But, they're in a bit of a rebuilding stage, aren't they, I think, in terms of manager and everything else. So, they're not going to get it right straight away. So maybe it's a good time to play them. I don't know. Really, we're at a stage now where we can't worry too much about the opposition. We know pretty much what the teams are going to, our teams are going to play against us. We've all had a chance to have a look at each other, haven't we?
Yeah.
So it's just a question of how we line up now and what our attitude is and mental state and everything else. I think we know. And the club and the squad know that they're good enough to beat anybody in this division. They've already shown that. So, yeah, it's going to be another tough game, another difficult game. And I think, obviously, the fact that we've lost this unbeaten run now will add a little bit more pressure, I guess, to the game. So, how do we deal with it? It's going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting. I would like to see us come out all guns blazing on Wednesday night. Absolutely, all guns blazing, and let's just knock stuffing out of them in the first 20 minutes. We are capable of doing that, and I'd like to see that. Let's set our stall out now and get another 21 games unbeaten.
It'll take us to end the season, won't it, more or less?
Just about, yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We haven't beat them at home in the league for a while, and this is because they were in non-league for quite some time. The last time we beat them in the league was in 2010 at Don Valley. So technically, we've never beaten them at New York in the league. I think we only played once. So, that's just a rubbish stat. But we beat them in the League Cup in 2017.
Yeah.
We then lost to them when the Cowleys were in charge, and that was the last time. We've played them 3 times since then, all of them at Sincil Bank. So... but that was Alfie and Ryan Creswell that scored the goals on that day back then. They are, I mentioned them being in a bad run, Danny. They lost on Boxing Day. They were 2-0 up inside 10 minutes against MK Dons and went on to lose 3-2. That's the sign of a team that are down there, isn't it? That's really, really not a good sign for them. I know MK Dons are a decent team, but they're not amazing.
No, and I mean, when we say they're not amazing, they are in a bad run of form at the minute, and I think their last win was against Wigan. So even though they're in a bad run, if you can still beat a team that is now eyeing up top of the league with our loss to Accrington, to be the last team, are they the last team to have beaten Wigan? I mean, if they're not the last team, they must be like second last team to beat Wigan. But yeah, to have that accolade, but then go on an atrocious run of form, doesn't really do them a service, because when they played us, they were really good, but is that testament to how poor we were after the Fleetwood game before we cracked on? Don't know. But with Lincoln, I don't want to sound like the cliche football fan going, oh, it's the perfect time to play them, that they're in a bad run of form and we've just had a knock to our brilliant run of form. But it sort of is. Yeah. It could be a very good recovery game, but that's not really doing Lincoln a good service, because they have got one of the best goalkeepers in the league in Josh Griffiths, which is, and I think he's an England youth international, or at least he was. And he pulled off some absolute blinders when we played them as well. Yeah, he had a great game. So personally, I don't really know what's gone wrong with Lincoln. I mean, they've still got Anthony Scully in the goals. He's still a danger. Same with the lad on loan from Man City who scored against us. But yeah, and they seem, well, the noise their players are making seem to say they are up for a victory at Rotherham. That's what Conor McGrandles said to their press. A little bit big-headed from Conor McGrandles, I will admit. But, you know, they sort of have to have that opinion. You know, if they're playing top of the league and top of the league have just lost to a team that are more or less at the same level as them, you will be up for it, won't you? It's human nature to be up for something like that. But I think it is more down to us to improve on the Accrington game rather than Lincoln to step up against us. Ball must be in our court to step up to Lincoln, and you know, like Mick says, give them a good doing. Whether or not we do that is remains to be seen, because it'll be one of them games where, like, yeah, we've not beaten them at New York and they're in a bad run of form, and of course we'll lose to them. You know,
yeah,
that's the pessimist in me, but you know, it's nailed on, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Ref watch. We have Andy Haynes as the referee, or scheduled referee. These were all put out before Christmas, so these could change. He refereed us this season against Wimbledon.
Okay.
He booked Victor Johansson, so I assume he booked him for time.
Oh, is that the one where he got booked in the first half for doing nothing? Oh,
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
there you go, Mick. That's another referee that Victor's bad books that he's playing again.
Well, yeah. At least he didn't come out of it with any injuries.
True.
Oh, he nearly came out with Saturday, didn't he? He came out another one Saturday where he clashed with a massive centre forward, and they claimed for a penalty somehow. That was crazy.
No, that was silly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, Mick. It's not the biggest game of the season because we're playing Lincoln, but it's almost the biggest game since we played Lincoln, because it's a test of our character. It's a test of how we are going to pick it up with us. When we lost last time, we picked it up. We should have beat Lincoln last time. Let's be right about it. If they had a different keeper, we'd have beat Lincoln. It's the same again. How we're going to react to losing again? It's a massive game for us.
Yeah, it is. But they're all big games, aren't they? They're all big games because we're top of the league. So if they're not big games for us, they're all big games for the opposition. They're all going to raise the game. Maybe like Accrington, and I don't know whether they did raise the game or not. But you know, teams are going to do that. They want to knock us off our perch at the top of the league. That's just football. That's how it is. So we've got to be up for it. But I know I keep saying it, don't I? Say it again and again and again. Play to our abilities, play to our strengths. There's nobody in this league that can touch us.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah. So we talked about changes, Danny, midfield and strikers. If you're put your Paul Warne mask on, what changes are you making? Because I assume we've lost. So do you assume there's going to be changes?
Yeah, I think so. I think more just for a shaking it up, and because it's a midweek game, and we've probably got another game on Saturday against a team that's in the same position as well, and another team that will be up for this time getting revenge on us. You know, with Bolton. Yeah, I would make changes. I'd keep Victor in goal, and dependent on how Reg is, and if we're going to risk him Wednesday or save him for Saturday or whatever, probably Harding, Wood in Equay again. And then for me, I think the shake-up should be, one of them should be in midfield. I'd personally take Ben out and put Lindsay in, just to give Ben a rest, you know, because I think he's right Rathbone, but he doesn't have the stamina level that Rathbone has, but he's been doing the same sort of job. So I think Ben just needs a rest, not because he's played atrociously or anything, just to like rest him, you know, and keep him on for Bolton, because Bolton will have a horrid time with him on Saturday if he plays against them. So I'd bring Lindsay in, possibly a Doffin, but I'd like to think Barlasser will step up against Lincoln as well. Keep Chio on the right hand side, potentially bring Miller in on the left hand side, so it causes them no end of problems on both flanks. And then probably take Freddie out and put Grigg in again just to shake it up a little bit. Not a disservice to Freddie or anything, but just to shake it up. Sometimes in football, you need just to take a few people out, shake it up, and sometimes it does bring you joy shaking it up. Because and as well, because we've lost, a shake up's what's needed. You know, if you're winning, you don't change the winning formula. But when that winning formula brings you a loss, just shake it up a little bit. No, shake it up, make people step up to win the shirt back, sort of thing.
Yeah, I agree. And also, mate, you've got to bear in mind we haven't played well in a couple of games. Yeah, I know. Yes, fine, we've been unbeaten, and yes, we've won the games, and that's a good sign. But we haven't played amazing for 5 games, lost 1. We've been a bit shoddy, the right word, maybe not, but there's been some questionable, I think. Off pace. Yeah, we've been off pace for maybe 2 or 3 games, Mick. So that backs up maybe the need for a change or two. That's not a change 7 players, but a change or 2 might make sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I'm with Danny. I think Danny's absolutely nailed on there. I don't think. I can't add anything to what he's just said. You know, other than I don't see Dan Barlaser being dropped. Yeah. I don't see that happening. I think he was a little bit anonymous on Saturday, but that wasn't his fault. He wasn't allowed to get into the game. But other than that, yeah, I'm with Danny 100% there. Check it up.
Yeah, I agree. I think we've just about got there, and there's a couple of minutes left for Mick to nip to shop before it closes at 9. Is there anything else, Danny, you want to touch on, mention before we let Mick go get his beer?
Just that, we said that John Coleman's been at Accrington over 2 spells for 20 years now. I believe at the end of this season will be Paul Warren's 15th year with Rotherham. I think anyway, because he were here 99 to 05 as a player, then 09 to 12 as a player, and then he's been here over 15 years because after he was here as a player, he was a fitness coach, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's getting close to 20 years then. My bad.
Yeah. He's been here forever. I suspect it's one of those things that I expect the club would like to do a celebration, but Paul Warren doesn't strike me as the type of person who would want a celebration of 20 years in charge. I don't know. Could be wrong. But he deserves a lot of credit.
I tell you what, Matt.
Go on.
Looking at his face as he walked off that pitch on Sunday afternoon, he definitely didn't want a celebration, did he? He was absolutely furious. He was not a happy bunny.
Oh, that's just reminded me of something else as well. Carry on, Mike.
All I'm going to say is that's really good to see, because that's not the Paul Warren that was the manager in the Championship last season. He's got something about him. I've said it before. We've said it before. He's got something about him this season that really is something stoked the fire in him, hasn't it? You know. And it's absolutely great to see his team plays in that fashion. When they're on song, they play with some proper fire in the bellies.
Yeah. Sorry, just to interject again. The thing that he's reminded me of is more criticism on Twitter, because Rotherham fans obviously like a moan when we've lost, right? And it was criticism of Paul Warren, and when they've watched the when they've watched the replay, it's John Coleman barking orders at his team, and Warney's just stood there with just a cup of tea, and it's like, it sums up the difference between the managers. Warney isn't the fella to bark orders at his team. That's Richie Barker's job, because Richie Barker is like a terrier, and he does that. But Paul Warren's the sort of guy who stands and studies the game. He's almost like a Bielsa. I can't believe I've just compared Paul Warren to Marco Bielsa, but
he's better than Bielsa.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't lose by millions to Man City when they're in the same league. But Paul Warren is more of the studier of the game, and he talks to his players at half time and full time, and they go through it like, what went wrong? What do you think? But to see him walking off the pitch, absolutely furious. I'm surprised the cup of tea didn't get poured on the players when they went into the dressing room. So it's a good job he finished it. But you can tell from the expression on Paul Warren's face and the expression on Woody's face, people got a battering in that dressing room. But not in the sense of with Alex Ferguson throwing airdryer and shoes at people. In a sense of they've gone in and gone, you haven't done well, tell me what went wrong, like a teacher does or a parent does. You know, they don't necessarily have a go at you. They want you to explain themselves, and then they'll tell you where everything went wrong, which I'm sure is what they've done in probably training today or tomorrow. But to criticise Paul Warne about how he stands as a manager on the touchline, give off her. Go away. No, shush, go away. Go and sit in the corner.
I wonder about some people, you know what I mean? Oh, you didn't shout. All right, great.
Yeah, and
he still told them what to do.
Yeah.
What that says to me, and I might be wrong, but that says to me he trusts his players.
Yeah.
He doesn't feel the need to constantly get at them. And from an Accrington point of view, John Cullen's doing it because Accrington have to be in a constant state of improvement. They have to, because that's the type of club they are. They've got to get these players in to improve these players to potentially sell on like Dion Charles is potentially going to Bolton. We're not at that stage in our progression. We're at a stage where everybody in this team should know their job because they've been here for quite a long time. So there's no need to be barking orders all the time. It does. I know we've all seen him. We know he does sometimes. But there's no need to be telling them that Chio should be marking this guy or Woody should be. They know what they're doing. They've got a good idea of what they're doing. And I'll repeat what I said earlier. It's okay to lose. You know what I mean? It's fine. It's going to happen. Sometimes a team will play better than us, or they will get lucky. Yesterday, they probably played better than us, and maybe got a little bit lucky as well. Maybe
I was about to say they got a bit lucky.
So if anyone out there who's seriously complaining about Paul Warne not shouting at his players, come on, guys. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Mick,
listen, mate, you can't fix stupidity, can you? You can't fix stupidity.
Mick said that, not me and Matt.
I mean, come on. We said it. Yeah, I did. I'll stick my head above parapet. I mean, come on. Like I said earlier on here, none of us know what we're talking about. None of us are qualified to really have that sort of an opinion on. Well, any sort of opinion on it, really, are we? You know, we're just football fans. But to come out with such stupidity like that, I mean, you do have to question whether they should be allowed in flipping ground, to be honest.
Yeah, there you go. I know the club recently announced that we're not doing COVID passes because we've limited the capacity to 9,999. That's complete finessing from the club, so fair play. But at the same time, instead of having COVID passes, I think we should have Warne criticism passes. Where it goes, have you criticised Paul Warne on Twitter? Scroll through. Yes, you have. You're not getting in. That sounds a little bit authoritarian, but it'll be funny, won't it?
Yeah, I think it's all right to criticise him though. It's the things you criticise him for. If he makes a bad substitution, I think that's fine. If you've got a reason behind it, to say he's crap because he didn't shout at his players is stupid. Go on, mate.
You're absolutely right. You know, when you're in a job like that, you're open to criticism. You know, and fans will always criticise, but criticise for something that's worth criticism. Not, I mean, it's just God, Bennett, man, just get your head a wobble, or don't bother coming to games, please, and get off social media. There should be some sort of stupidity filter on social media, shouldn't there? You know. I mean, to be fair, I wouldn't be on it. I'd get an immediate ban as well. But nevertheless, you know what I mean. Just think about it before you put your finger on your phone and start typing.
Every phone should have a built-in breathalyzer, and you have to have a breathalyzer before going on social media. If it says you're too drunk, you can't go on Twitter or Facebook. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. Just on that, I will say losing, not badly, but losing in a poor way and then going on a run is a characteristic of Paul Warne's tenureship. I remember a few years ago, I think it was the playoff winning season. I think we had a bad loss at Charlton where we lost 2-0, something like that. And it was a really poor performance. Then we went on a run. If you look at the Fleetwood game this season, we lost to Fleetwood. We then went on a run. I think in 2019-20, we lost to Donny. We lost 2-1 to Donny. In again a poor performance. Then we went on a run. These things are going to happen, and it's. We've mentioned this. We could mention this to a blue in face. It's about how you react, and as a general rule, we're now at a point where we can look at Paul Warne's tenureship and go, "This has happened in the past, so this might happen in the future." We're now in a situation where we go, if you look at what has happened in the past, there is a good chance we will pick straight back up. Now, you can all string me up after when we lose 2-0 to Lincoln on Wednesday. But based on history, there's a decent chance we will put in a good performance. That's just an observation that I have. Who knows? Let's wait and see.
Yeah, we shall. We'll wait and see.
I'm done. Danny, are you done?
Yep, I've said my piece. I'm now going to go and have a large whiskey in my cup of tea again.
Mick, anything else you want to add? What beer are you buying? Carlsberg?
It'd probably be Carlsberg, yeah, I think so, yeah. Assuming that it's still up now, you're running past 9 o'clock, but,
it's see. Wales as well, it's different rules, isn't it? So you never know. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you everybody who's watching and listening. I hope you've enjoyed the Barlasser episodes with mother and son. I hope you've watched the Victor one and enjoyed the Victor one, because they're both worth. If you haven't watched them already, I cannot recommend them enough. I know we were involved in them, so I might sound a bit biased. They were brilliant. Both of them were brilliant. You should watch both of them. I highly recommend them. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. Spotify now claim you can give us a 5-star rating. I haven't worked out how to do it yet, but if you can find out how to do it, please do give us a 5-star rating. Apparently, after you've listened to an episode, it should ask you if you want to rate us. If you do, please do give us a 5-star rating. If it doesn't let you, don't worry about it. We just appreciate you listening to us. We will be back. We're back normal. From now on, it's back to normal. I know this is a bit later than normal, but we're back on Thursday night to review the Wednesday night game, and then Sunday and so on and so on. So I hope you enjoyed it. Danny, it's been a pleasure, and we will see you all again in a couple of days' time.
Yep, see you hopefully at the Lincoln game, and if not, I will see you when I see you. And thank you everybody for listening and putting up with our rants and ramblings about football. As we say, we're not professionals, but we like to think we are.
Yeah, exactly. That's the fun bit. We like to pretend. This is a team meeting, post-game team meeting. That's why I prepare myself as a team. That's what I do anyway. So. And Mick, thank you for joining us. I enjoy Wales. I assume it's going to be cold, and I hope the beer's nice and cold for you.
No, it's lovely and warm here at the moment. 8 degrees, not raining. It's lovely. Just one thing I would say about we're up at about 425 subscribers now, and we're coming up to New Year's Eve on Saturday. Last New Year's Eve, I remember tweeting out asking people to subscribe to the YouTube channel so we could get up to 50 subscribers.
Yeah, we did that.
Wow!
And so within a year, it's come a long way, and people have subscribed, and it's great that people are enjoying what we do, and just 3 and sometimes 4 idiots talking nonsense about our club. It would be great to be able to get up to 450 by this New Year. So if anybody's mums and dads aren't subscribed yet or whatever, please get us up to 450. That would be brilliant if we could do that for New Year's Eve.
Yeah, and we are a family-friendly podcast as well. So if you're on YouTube and your kids got a YouTube account, subscribe through them as well, because there's no adult content or anything like that. It's all nice and good. So yeah, for that as well. And we'll be back next. We've got stuff we want to do for next year. We want to get more players on. We want to get more former players, current players, managers. We will. The way I think about this podcast is, I'm doing stuff I would want to listen to. I'd want to hear from Victor Johansson. I want to hear from Richard Wood. So I assume other fans do as well. That's my assumption. I might be wrong. And as always, any feedback you want to give us, we do take it on board. Twitter, Facebook, rufcpod@gmail.com is our email. Any feedback you want to give us, positive or negative, as long as it's constructive, let us know. I hope you enjoy it. We do all appreciate it. We're not in the year yet, so we'll do an end of the year review next episode probably. But thank you, everybody. And we'll see you Thursday night, Friday morning for your podcast listeners. Cheers, guys. See you next time. Freddie's on one-on-one. Freddie turning shoot. Potato shot. Yeah!